So, if there was one thing that Nemesis and the 3.0 update really expanded upon, it's diplomacy. Sure, you have the ability to become the Crisis now and terrorize the galaxy, however the ways you can manipulate and threaten others has now drastically expanded. The most direct way will always to be invading people, but if you want to take an indirect approach, you can now do that. Espionage I'll be covering in the next video, and it's very much a harmful action. The Galactic Community, on the other hand, allows you to work either with or against people to help or hinder them. Nemesis has expanded upon this system with some new mechanics, allowing you to now take control of games, sometimes without firing a single shot. Let's have a bit of a dive into this. So before we go into all the details of how to gain power and the best way to take hold of the galaxy diplomatically with Nemesis, we gotta talk about how the community works and how the AI decides what to do. Whenever a resolution is added to the queue or presented to the floor of the Senate, the AI comes up with a score or weight, representing how much they support or oppose the proposal using information like their ethics and their current situation. Now, all of this information can be found buried in the game's code and logic rules, so a big thank you to Bug Behemoth for helping me find out all this information for the whole video. So please check them out below. I'm gonna skip the many hours of working this all out and give you the basics. So it all starts with benchmarks. The AI will do the following with the according weights. These are all worked out with some information found in the defined config files. I'll get to how the AI works out its own personal weight on each resolution in a second, but let's actually touch on what each of these scores mean first. If the AI calculates a score that is below 5.5, it will oppose the resolution. From 5.5 all the way up to below 7, it will abstain the resolution and check the opinion modifier of the proposing party. Above 7, it will support the resolution. The AI will begin to use favors in order to support or oppose the resolution when it reaches 2 points above the voting threshold. What this means is that if the AI calculates a score of 9.0 or above, it will begin to use favors in order to support the resolution. Conversely, if the AI calculates a score of 3.5 or lower, it will begin to use favors in order to oppose the resolution. If the AI calculates a score of 10 or above, it will attempt to use the emergency measures ability if possible. Conversely, if the AI calculates a score of 1.0 or lower, it will attempt to veto the resolution. Finally, and new to Nemesis, the AI can freeze resolutions if it's the Custodian. If the AI prefers the second resolution in queue 3 points higher than it does the first, it will go and freeze the first resolution in order to push through the second. Now, I'll be the first to admit this is a complete mouthful and try to remember, so I have made this handy little graphic that we'll be using for the rest of the video that will show what the AI will do with a given score. So how does the AI work out its score? Well, every resolution begins with a base difficulty or opinion that the developers set. This difficulty represents how impactful the resolution will be. Granting more power to certain areas is a lot harder to pass than less impactful changes. These difficulties are loved, popular, normal, unpopular, disliked, and hated. You'll notice that all of these different difficulties have scores associated with them, and I've given you some example resolutions of just how to sort of base these all off. As a general rule of thumb, if it's really a negative on people, it'll be a lot harder to pass. So all AI, when considering voting, will start out with the same base number. The AI will then look at some factors which tells it how to change this number in accordance to some weightings unique to the resolution. So let's take the example of banning the organic slave trade and see how 4 empires will vote. The first empire is a fanatical authoritarian xenophile slaver. The second empire is a gestalt consciousness that doesn't use slaves. The third empire is a fanatical xenophile egalitarian and is proposing the resolution, and the fourth and final empire is fanatical spiritualist egalitarian. All of these empires have the following opinion values of the proposing empire. This resolution is disliked, meaning all empires start with a base score of 4. The following factors are then attached to this score. So for every condition an AI checks off, it will times the base score by that amount, moving down the list. So this first empire checks if it matches any of these requirements. It matches the xenophile requirement, which adds a factor of 1.5, the authoritarian requirement, which adds a factor of 0.5, and the slave requirement, which adds a factor of 0. Looking at this equation, the slaver's voting weight will be 0, thanks to its multiplied by 0 due to being a slaver. The requirements for some resolutions will see some empires automatically denying it due to their stance on the issue, no matter the other influencing factors. Having a score of 0, this empire will oppose with favours and will veto if possible. The second empire checks the requirements themselves. Being a Gestalt consciousness that doesn't use slaves, they don't meet any requirements and don't change their base number by any factor. With a score of 4, this empire will oppose, but won't use favours or attempt to veto. The third empire, being both xenophile and egalitarian, will multiply the base number of 4 by 1.5 twice. With a final score of 9, this empire will support with favours. Finally, the fourth empire, being a fanatical spiritualist egalitarian, passes the egalitarian check and multiplies the base value by 1.5 for a total of 6. With this score, the AI will abstain. This is where opinion will come in. If the AI ever generates a score that would lead to them abstaining, they will then use the opinion value of the proposing empire and take 3% of that and add it onto their score. If this new value goes to 7 or higher, they will support. If this value drops to 5.4 or lower, they will oppose. If this number is still in between 5.5 to 6.9, they will continue to abstain. With an opinion value of the proposing empire being plus 60, they will take 3% of that, or 1.8, and add it to their original number of 6, creating a new score of 7.8. With this, they will support. If the opinion instead was negative 60, they add the value of negative 1.8 to create a new score of 4.2. With this, they would oppose. Opinion acts as a tiebreaker when an AI could go either way or is neutral on an issue. Now, the example I've just given here is a very basic one in terms of content. The game is only checking for 5 requirements of all empires, and none of which you can realistically influence. However, with some of the more important resolutions, there are certain things you can do to encourage the AI to vote a certain way. The most important thing is to know when to strike with a game-changing resolution, especially with Nemesis, as when a resolution gets rejected in the Senate, not only do you take a diplomatic weight hit, you can't propose that resolution again for some time. As such, knowing when to strike with an important proposal is crucial, the best example being that of the Custodianship. So my best advice I can give everyone looking at this for their single player games with the Custodianship and the Imperium and all those game changing resolutions, you have to know when to strike and you have to know what the AI is looking at when you're proposing these things. One of these factors, if you can get some of these factors going off, you can easily take hold of the game. The AI will always follow through with you if you know what you're doing with it. It's so important. So, for the factors the AI will look at when electing a custodian, the custodian target can only be the empire with the highest diplomatic weight within the Galactic Council. This vote has a difficulty of normal and starts off with a score of 6. The AI will then check the following factors. So, here is everything in the game code. Please pause the video here if you'd like to go over it yourself, but you can see it's a relatively big list. Also, one thing to mention here, have a look at how many global events and personal game states the AI takes into account. I've color coded them in post for your convenience here. Pretty much, whenever there is any crisis of any kind going on, the community will vote for a custodian, unless they are the crisis, rivaling the target that has been chosen in the resolution, or they are a fallen empire subject. When none of these crisis events are going on, it then becomes a bit harder to push this through. Pretty much everyone will be abstaining. In this situation, it can be very good for you. AI that don't meet any of these requirements at all, if they have an opinion of 30 plus, thanks to the abstain opinion rule, they will vote yes. So, if you can be quite likable to a lot of people, it's quite easy to push this through. But why would you want to be custodian? Well, whoever is elected custodian gets some seriously big powers. First of all, flat statistics. You gain 5 additional influence per month, no strings attached. That is huge. I probably don't need to tell you why, but naturally being the custodian, you're going to have a lot more opportunities to spend that influence anyway, but you can choose how you want to spend it. If you're playing a very war-heavy game, grabbing the custodianship will allow you to claim a lot more, and integrate more subjects, more stuff like that. You also gain a flat 30% bonus to your diplomatic weight, meaning you can easily swing votes around when needed to. On a more personal note, being able to be a crossbencher in sort of multiplayer games and swing votes around when needed be for the right price is so underrated, I believe, in multiplayer games. I really think if you can take the custodianship and be a neutral party, you can really profit off two sides of the Senate during some votes. Furthermore, and this is a little bit hidden, you gain an innate 45 intel on all community members from being the custodian. But wait, there's a fair bit more. Even if the veto power hasn't been unlocked yet, you as custodian get access to it at half the cost and cooldown. So every 2.5 years you can veto a resolution for quite cheap, meaning you can easily get rid of resolutions that would end your term prematurely or limit your power. As a very meta strategy in this game, if you can get into the custodianship without having the veto power resolution being proposed, that makes you the only one with the veto power, which is very strong. You also get the ability to freeze resolutions for 4 years, preventing them from being proposed to the Senate. It's quite useful if you want to get the second resolution on the queue through first. Last of all, you can prematurely end voting sessions after half the time has passed, or 720 days. All of these make you a powerhouse in controlling the community and the flow of the game. The Custodian also gets access to a bunch of unique resolutions they can propose, so I'm going to quickly try and go through them all now. AI will be likely to vote for ones that benefit them. Rule of thumb, if it benefits their civics and stance, the AI will support it. If it goes against them, they will oppose it. If any form of crisis is happening, AI will be more likely to pass through things they normally wouldn't as well. So a quick rapid fire of all the proposals. United Front increases damage against all crises by 20%. This includes player crises. Countries lose 3% of their energy production in return. If any crisis is active or the AI is militarist, they will vote for this. Galactic mobilization will increase everyone's naval capacity by 150 points and will reduce trade value production by 5%. If any crisis is active or the AI is militarist, they will vote for this. Pacifists will try and reject this. Galactic Standard increases monthly influence by 1 for all empires and decreases energy production by 2%. Xenophiles and corporations will love this, xenophobes will not. The Anti-Piracy Initiative will grant a global +5 in trade protection to everyone and increase damage against marauders and pirates by 20%, at the cost of reducing energy production by 3%. Xenophobes and Gestalt consciousnesses will reject this. The Galactic Defense Force creates a fleet that all players can add ships to and that the Custodian uses. Ships cost 25% less to add, but all players experience a 5% reduction to alloys. If any crisis is active or the AI is militarist, they will vote for this. Pacifists and xenophobes will be against this. Expanding the GDF to a capacity of 400 ships can be passed, with AI voting with the same weights. The GDF can also be disbanded with the weights opposite to the aforementioned. As a side note, the GDF is really good if you're the Custodian. The Interstellar Navigation Agency increases the speed of ships by 15% at the cost of 2% of energy production. Xenophiles, explorers, and peaceful traders will support this, xenophobes will not. Galactic Trade Organization increases trade value by 10% at the cost of 3% pop consumer goods upkeep. Corporations will support this, xenophobes and Gestalt consciousness will not. Finally, Galpol decreases all crime by 15 points but decreases energy production by 2%. Empires with any planets with 40+ crime or have a criminal syndicate's branch office on them will support this. Xenophobes and criminal syndicate empires will reject this. And over. In multiplayer games, if factions and federations are being formed within the galaxy, you should try and get a member of your faction to become the Custodian very quickly, as it allows them, and in extension you, to push through aligned agendas very easily and deny the actions of others. You may just have to be a little careful that that power doesn't go to their head, however. So, step 1 to becoming Emperor and proclaiming the Imperium is to have your term limit as Custodian removed. It's pretty similar to declaring the Imperium actually, but a tad bit easier. This resolution is disliked and starts with a base score of 4. Empires that are a crisis, subject of a fallen empire, or democratic crusaders will always oppose this no matter what, but normal empires, due to their base score of 4, will also oppose this. Unless you hold a majority in the community yourself through powers or favors, it is impossible to pass this resolution without a crisis active. So, attempting to make a crisis is a very viable option, and so in line with Nemesis I kinda love it. In my most recent game, I activated the L gates with the hope of getting Grey Tempest and encouraging the AI to vote for me. It went stupidly well. Here you can see I'm getting completely opposed by everyone in the entire galaxy, but the moment the crisis starts, almost everyone supports me. So I suggest thoroughly that you attempt to declare a crisis if you wish to impose the Imperium, as it will help you immensely. You don't even need to actively fight the crisis, just have one declared. Pretty much what I'm trying to say here is that the developers are not kidding around when they're saying having a crisis will make it a lot easier to be able to do this radical stuff. You literally can't pass it without it otherwise, so you're gonna have to go for it. But the thing is, if you get relatively lucky with how the Empire generation plays out in your single player games, it can be quite easy to declare a crisis. So let's have a look at how the AI will vote. This resolution is hated with a base score of 3. So if you want to pass this one, declare a crisis, opening up many doors for your Imperium later on, an easy way to do it is to find a genocidal empire. If you can, and they are holding a superior fleet to everyone, then all other empires will vote for you here. It is much easier to pass this than the Imperium requirements. This means you can use this as a gateway as such, as it really helps in getting people to support you later on. By declaring a crisis, you can begin to remove your term limit thanks to the additional factor of 8 on that vote, meaning that people will really begin to push things through. The final step in securing your power is proclaiming the Imperium. Here are the numbers here. This resolution is hated with a base score of 3. But do you see that factor of 8 if a crisis had been declared? That's your way in. Having a genocidal empire in your game makes this very easy. Attempting to prolong a crisis is probably the best thing you can do in single player games now with Nemesis. The AI will allow you to pass so many things with a crisis active. The key with all this is that the AI checks for if there is a crisis, not if the crisis is actually threatening or worth their attention. Manufacturing a crisis allows you freedom and support of AI, and the fact that Nemesis encourages this is the coolest thing. Proclaiming the Imperium does a few things. First of all, any Federation currently active will be forced to dissolve. All members of the Imperium will also begin to experience an ethics shift to authoritarian and imperial. The empire which proclaimed Imperium will now be renamed to the Imperial Nexus and will have an innate intel of 65 on all Imperium members. The Galactic Defense Force will now be called the Imperial Armada. All the Galactic Custodian resolutions will also carry over. However, the Imperial Security Directorate will now give the Emperor +2 decryption and +4 encryption. This will allow you to better resist and perform espionage operations. Furthermore, with this directorate, you will cap your minimum intel with all Imperium members at 80 points, meaning you can't go under this amount. The Emperor will finally gain access to a few more resolutions. The Emperor can propose an Imperial Charter on any megacorporation. If passed, it will allow that megacorp to build branch offices anywhere, regardless of if they have a commercial pact with that empire. The Emperor can propose to abolish the Imperial Council, however, everyone will be opposed to this, there's no way to boost it up. Finally, they can also change how people are selected to be on the Imperial Council. By appointment allows the Emperor to personally pick who's on the council and will be opposed by everyone. By election is the default method and is easy to enact. And by trial of advancement gives all members a casus belli on current council members to challenge them in a war for their council seat. The final value to worry about is Imperial Authority. Empires can choose to allocate envoys to either strengthen or oppose the Imperium. To decide whether the AI can do this or not, it will look at the relationship between them and the Emperor. The amount of envoys an AI will assign ranges on a scale from 3 to -2. At 3, that player will assign all available envoys to strengthen the Empire. At -2, that player will weaken with all available envoys. At 0, the Empire will not strengthen or weaken. As you can see here, someone with a terrible relationship with the Emperor will have a score of -2, whereas someone with a good relationship will have a score of 1. The value of 3.0 can only be achieved 2 ways. The Emperor will have an innate 3.0 value and will assign all of their envoys, and any AI on the Imperial Council will have their score bumped up by 1 point and can reach the 3.0 threshold if they have an excellent relationship. If the Imperial Authority is below 50 or above 150, empires won't spend as many envoy strengthening or weakening authority. In envoy strengthening or weakening, they will add or subtract 0.1 from a monthly Imperial Authority, all the way up to 200. Imperial Authority is the last mechanic, and it opens up a fair few things. It's quite vital to ensuring that civil war does not break out. There are thresholds at 50, 100, 140, and 180. When authority is below 50, any member can attempt to trigger a rebellion through an espionage operation. If successful, a war will be declared between the Loyalists and the rebellion. Empires that aren't the Saboteur, Emperor, or subjects of either may choose which side of the war they wish to enter on. If the Loyalists win, the Imperium stays intact, with all rebels suffering a diplomatic weight penalty with authority strength greatly increased. If the rebels win, the Imperium reverts back to the galactic community, with all Loyalists suffering weight penalties instead. If the war ends in status quo, the Imperium stays intact, but all rebels leave to form a federation. When authority is above 100, all members of the Imperium will join in on any defensive wars against the Emperor from parties outside the Imperium. When authority is above 140, Imperial crusades can be proposed to force targets into the Imperium. This includes fallen empires. Finally, when authority is above 180, Pax Galactica can be enabled. This makes empires within the community unable to declare wars against one another unless it is a war of advancement. And that's everything concerning the new Galactic Community resolutions and Imperium system in Stellaris Nemesis. Nemesis has added a ton of new content which I plan to go into detail about, so be sure to possibly subscribe to be notified when I release a new video. I am having a ton of fun with Nemesis. I think it's a pretty good DLC. At any rate, challenge the AI and take the galaxy yourself with thunderous applause.